So this is day 18 of the videos that I'm making to help raise awareness and understanding of PTSD, and today I'm going to talk a little bit about PTSD in relation to pregnancy and childbirth. And the first thing I want to say is this is relevant for men too. So guys, don't just switch off and go, I'll come back tomorrow. Unless you have no women in your life and are not expecting to have any contact with women in your life, this is still relevant. And if you're a dad or likely to become a dad, this is absolutely relevant. So don't be going, oh, pregnancy, childbirth, nothing to do with me. Yes, it is. So I just wanted to get that out there first. The second thing I want to say is this is going to be a slightly longer talk because I don't want it to just be another way of scaring pregnant women to go, oh yes, childbirth, you can get PTSD from that, good luck. That's not what this is about. It's absolutely not what this is about. So I wanted to make sure we have the time and space to talk about it with a little bit more nuance. And one thing to know is this is still going to be only the bare bones. This is still only the headlines. But I think it's really important to include this in these talks because it's something that isn't talked about and isn't thought about particularly and is really under-recognised, I think, across the board, that for some women they can end up experiencing PTSD as a result of giving birth. And with that, one of the things that's really important to recognise is that it's the experience of giving birth that is what is important, rather than how other people tell you or tell people how the birth is. So they might be saying, oh yes, it was a great birth, there weren't lots of medical intervention, so it was a really straightforward birth. That doesn't mean it hasn't been experienced as very traumatizing. So the appraisal of the person giving birth is what's really important here. You could have someone who's had what on the outside looks to have been a very straightforward birth, that midwives be like, oh yes, it went really well, from a perspective of not having to be like, oh gosh, it's all going horribly wrong. That doesn't mean that it's not been experienced as really difficult for the mother. Likewise, you can have someone who's had massive medical interventions and it's been a very medically difficult birth, and actually they have experienced it as being very safe, very cared for, very looked after and supported, and come out of it actually with their mental health in as good a place as the next person's. So it's how it is experienced by the mother that's really important. And along with that, it's also really important to recognise that experience can inadvertently be quite invalidated by other people, especially if it's been a straightforward birth. So you're sort of, as the mum, sort of feeling very traumatised or very, churned over and unsettled by everything that's happened, and everyone's going, oh yeah, it sounds like it went really well, and then you can start to question yourself, and that just adds another layer of distress on top. Trust your experience. It's your experience, so it's really important to say that. Likewise, you can also get people being told, oh well, so long as you and the baby are safe, that's all that matters. That's not all that matters. Your experience and your mental health matter too. So it's really important to recognise that, and not just invalidate yourself, and to recognise that people may be coming from a very good, well-meaning place doesn't mean what they're saying is particularly accurate and really isn't very helpful. So it can be good to just recognise that, first of all. And the next thing I wanted to say is that dads can experience PTSD as well. It's not just the mums that can experience PTSD, actually dads can as well. And if we think about it, actually the person that they love is in lots and lots of pain, lots of things going on that they, I think no matter how much you've been told about it, it's very hard to be prepared, especially if it's your first birth. And there's very little they can do apart from hold their partner's hand and go, keep on breathing. And so it can be, there can be that sense of everything being out of control, feeling like, oh gosh, I might be about to lose my partner, I might be about to lose my child. So it's really understandable from that perspective that dads can get PTSD too from their experience of the birth. And again, it's their appraisal. That's what's important. And if we think that we don't really talk about women and PTSD, we really don't talk about men getting PTSD as a result of being there at the birth of their child. So it's really important to recognise that. And so also I want to talk about a little bit about the pregnancy aspect, because I've got childbirth and pregnancy, or pregnancy and childbirth, and that's because for some people, especially if they've had a traumatic birth already, but also if they've had a history of sexual assault or sexual abuse, being pregnant can be experienced as traumatic. Or if they've lost children through miscarriage, then actually the pregnancy itself can be really quite difficult and really quite traumatic. For lots of different reasons. They will all be individual and unique. And so the first thing I would say is talk to your midwife. If you're not comfortable with the midwife you're seeing, ask to see a different one. I think generally quite often you'll see a couple of different ones anyway. They're trying to get more continuity, but that's still you. You're still going to see several different midwives. When you find one you feel comfortable with, talk to them about your experiences, talk to them about your fears. That's really important, because the more they know, the more they can support you. And some services now do pregnancy birth planning services specifically for women who have had previous assaults or traumatic births, and so ask if that's available. Don't be afraid to ask. The worst that can happen is them say, I'm really sorry, we don't do that service here. The more you ask, the greater the likelihood is of a service actually being commissioned if it isn't already there. If it is there, then you can access it. So it's really important to actually talk to people and let them know what's going on, because that then helps you start to take control of the process yourself a little bit more, and helps them to empower you to do that. The next thing I want to talk about is that a lot of midwife services now do a debriefing service. If someone has had a traumatic birth, a lot of places will now do a debriefing service where they will talk through with you what actually happened. And that can be really important in terms of someone making sense of their experience, starting to see a wider narrative possibly, and that's really important for actually starting to process those memories and put them where they need to be, rather than in the front of your head all the time. And again, if it's not offered, I think for some births it's probably going to be offered. Ask. If it's not available, then again, by asking it may become available in the future, but ask. So that's really important to know that support is out there, and I'm going to put a few links in the blurb above the video for some really good websites for people who've experienced birth trauma, and so have a look for those as well. The next thing I wanted to say is, having had one difficult birth does not mean the next one will be difficult. Every birth is its unique event. So don't feel like, gosh, the birth I've just had, or that child that I've had, that giving birth was really hard, therefore all my other pregnancies will be the same. Each one is its own event. So I just wanted you to really hold that in mind and talk to your midwife about it. And if you think that you might have PTSD, talk to your doctor, go and see your GP, and actually put it out there, because as I said, it's not something that's routinely scanned for. And in a couple of talks' time, I'm actually going to be talking a lot more about getting help, treatments available, things like that. But go and have a conversation with your GP. And finally, and this doesn't have anything to do with PTSD at all particularly, but I'm putting it out here because people love to say of all the horrendous ways that it can go wrong and all the different things that can happen around childbirth, that there can be some amazing births, and I've talked to more than one woman who said they really enjoyed giving birth, that they found it hard work but very satisfying. So I just wanted to make sure that I ended on that really, hopefully more hopeful note of a lot of people actually can have very positive experiences, and they're never the ones that make the headlines, because woman gives birth really, really well doesn't sell papers. So that's me for today. I hope it's been helpful, and a massive thank you to the midwives that I spoke to that helped me put together this particular talk, because I have spoken to some midwives to help get some extra information for this talk. Really big thank you to you guys, and I will see you tomorrow.